Welcome back to Fringe Spirit, Not Your Love and Light podcast. On today's episode, we're going to get into balance between the masculine energy and the feminine energy. So we're going to talk about kind of the traits of each, the different areas in our lives, and how to determine, are we operating more from a masculine place or from a feminine place, or do we have that balance already? And why we need the balance, right? So our masculine and feminine energy, first of all, have nothing to do with gender or sex. It has nothing to do with your, biology. Often, we do see men have a lot of masculine energy, and we do tend to see women with a lot of feminine energy, but it's not always, oh, if you're a female or identify as a female, you're, embodying feminine energy, and, vice versa. And in an ideal world, we want to be very 50-50 in all areas of our lives. So I personally have, for a while, for a long time, for years, I thought, I'm pretty balanced with my masculine and feminine. I feel like I'm pretty 50-50. And I started to recognize, in the big picture of things, I am pretty 50-50. Because in this area of my life, I operate very, very feminine. And in this area of my life, I operate very, very masculine. So maybe as far as the big picture goes, I'm pretty 50-50. But in the specific areas, I could not have been less balanced. For me personally, in my professional world, so me out running businesses or having jobs, I operate in a very, 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 very typical masculine way. Whereas in maybe more relationship settings, I operate in a more feminine way. So we really want to have the balance between the two in all of the areas of our lives. And we're going to go over all of the reasons why and how it will benefit you and help to propel you forward. So first and foremost, let's talk about the difference between masculine and feminine energy. So the masculine is more your doing versus your feminine is your being. Right? So the masculine is doing XYZ. I'm taking action. I'm problem solving by, I'm going to go do certain things to solve the problems. Whereas the feminine is being, right? Is just letting things happen the way that they're going to happen, kind of go with the flow, less action taking steps. The masculine is very active versus the feminine being passive. So the masculine, again, you're active, you're taking action, you're doing. There's no question of if something needs to get done, if you are a masculine type, you will get it done. Whereas the feminine side is very, very good at just being and existing and just being passive and letting things happen the way that they need to happen. Total opposite ends of the spectrum in that way. The masculine is thinking, right? We're using the brain. We're thinking a lot more with the logical side of our brains, whereas the feminine is feeling, right? We're feeling the emotions. How does this make me feel? Versus thinking, right? And that, the emotional versus the logical. The feminine is your emotional side. It's your feeling side. It's your being side. It's, what emotions am I feeling right now? Versus the masculine is, more so, well, because the XYZ means this, and this means I should do this. And it's very logical. It's really pointing out, on paper, this makes sense based on facts, right? Whereas the feminine is, how does this make me feel? right? So it's your masculine is more of your intellectual side. It's research, data, statistics, learning in a very intellectual way, whereas the feminine is your intuitive side. It's that gut feeling. It's more of your spiritual side than your logical thinking side. Again, it's your masculine is your productivity versus your feminine is your flow state, right? Your masculine is do. I have to be doing something at all times. We all know those people, right? That are constantly moving and doing. They cannot sit down. They don't know how to relax. They always have to be doing something. Whereas the feminine is that person who's content, just relaxing and being in that flow state and just allowing things to happen around them. It's your feminine, it's that creative side. It's, using that creative spark, and when that creative spark hits, to then, create, versus the masculine is that analytical. It's, I have a deadline, so I have to do XYZ to hit that deadline, and more so forcing it versus waiting for that creative nudge. It's the masculine is the mind versus the sensing side, right? The feminine is that, how does this make me feel? What energies am I picking up on? And again, the masculine is all thinking with the mind, right? Total opposite. The masculine is more about the achievements, the doing and the achievements that come with it, whereas the feminine is about the experience, right? The masculine is, I need to do all these things and I want the end result, right? I want to get to the end result, whereas the feminine is, I'm going to enjoy the journey. I'm going to enjoy the experience, right? So they're so polar opposites. You've got your masculine, it's more of that controlling energy, right? I'm not going to release it to the universe, right? I'm going to do it. I'm going to make it happen, right? If I don't do it, no one else will do it. So it's that control factor versus the feminine, which is that just allowing and surrendering and trusting, right? You've got your masculine that's very structured, very routine, and your feminine is just open. Your feminine is that person that just wakes up and just lets the day guide them onto what they need to do or what they are choosing to do that day. Whereas the masculine is, I get up, I have this routine. I get up, I make my coffee, I brush my teeth, I get myself dressed, you have that structure, that routine. And again, that feminine is, I'm going to wake up when my body allows me to, and maybe I don't want coffee today. What am I feeling? I think I'm feeling like tea today, right? Structure versus just being open to what comes your way. The masculine tends to be very, very grounded energy as well, right? Very grounded into the 3D, very grounded into this incarnation, into the third dimension, into this, this planetary body, versus the feminine tends to be more out of body and connected with spirit and etheric, very spiritual versus more grounded, right? So I think that's a good broad kind of comparison between the two. And maybe you're thinking, I think I'm totally feminine, but let's talk about the different areas in our lives and how it looks to operate from each of these different energies, because maybe you're like me. Maybe you think you're super feminine, and in reality, in some areas, you're super masculine, and maybe you need this kind of push to incorporate more masculine energy into this area or more feminine energy into this area. So let's talk about maybe from a professional perspective. So you at work, you interacting with your colleagues, you interacting with your boss, maybe you're a business owner. So you in the way that you run your business, you in the way that you interact with your employees, you in the way that you interact with maybe vendors or customers or clients or subcontractors, everything you at work, you making money, right? And whatever that looks like for you. So the masculine person in a professional sense is a lot of what society has ingrained into us, which is why a lot of people tend to operate, those who do really, really quote unquote well at work, who get promotions and get the pats on the back that you're doing great, they tend to be your masculine types because society at large, and therefore business as part of that, is really promoting that masculine energy. Why? Because masculine energy is your active side, it's your doing side, it's your productivity side, right? You're not thinking about how you're feeling. You're not waking up thinking, I feel sick and I think I need to stay home today and listen to my body. Right? Most of us have that guilt feeling. We force ourselves to work and we work through it, right? We are go, 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 go. We think about the deadlines. We think about all the things that need to get done. You know, the masculine is very organized, very logical and data driven, right? So say you're making a decision within your business and you're not necessarily thinking, how does this make me feel? Or how is it going to make me feel if I make this decision? You're thinking, well, this is going to make me more money. Logically, on paper, this is the smart move to maybe hire this employee, right? On paper, they have a great resume and they have all of the qualifications you're looking for. They should be the perfect employee. On paper, fact wise, from the masculine perspective, I should hire that employee. Versus if you're on the feminine side of it, you did this interview with someone and now you're feeling like something feels off. They're qualified. They're probably going to do great at the job, but something doesn't feel right? That gut feeling. Most people, a lot of people in the professional world go with the masculine. They dismiss that gut feeling. They dismiss it. And so maybe you dismissed your gut feeling. You hired the person because you're a very masculine type and, they no-showed at work the second day and then they ghosted you. And you're like, wow, like maybe I should have listened to my gut, right? So in a professional sense, a lot of us do tend to be masculine, not always, then because you have your flip side. So you're more feminine type. You're thinking, how do I feel today? And you're going to go at the pace that feels right for you. And your boss maybe doesn't like it, or maybe productivity is affected by the fact that you are not quite as go, 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 right? Your feminine type tends to be more lax and less maybe motivated or driven, right? Because you're thinking more on how I'm feeling, what emotions am I feeling, and stuff like that versus this needs to get done, right? So in an ideal world, right, we would have the balance. We would know that XYZ needs to get done. We would have good systems and we would look at the data, right? Because that stuff is important, but we would also use our intuition. We would always think, how does this make me feel? Is this a good, does this feel right? Is this going to make me happy, right? Is it all about the numbers or is it all about what's going to make me happy and feel good, right? So that's a good way to determine, like, where do I fall on the professional side? So then we'll talk about the personal side. So in a personal capacity, maybe the way that you operate at home, doing chores at home, self-care, things like that, how you work within your own mind, right? If you're the masculine type, again, you're very, very logical. You're very in your head of, I need to be productive at all times. I need to be doing. I need to meet these deadlines, all of these things. I need to control all the aspects of my life. I don't want to let go and surrender, right? I feel the need to have my structure and control, and if that is not in place, I get anxiety over it. Versus the feminine that is, whatever is going to happen is going to happen. I'm not going to stress over it. I just want to feel the experience. I want to see what things feel like, things like that. Think Those who are a very masculine energy in their personal lives very much struggle with self-care because they're very go, 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 go once again. And, the feminine side is really what you would more so want to embrace if you find yourself on the masculine side when you're thinking about self-care, because the feminine side is more about yourself, right? It's how am I feeling? I'm open to receiving, whatever divine wisdom or energies or healing is going to come my way, or interactions, and I'm in that flow state, right? So in your personal life, where do you fall? Are you able to relax? Or do you always have to be doing something? You're always cleaning, your house has to be in tip-top shape. Can't have a single mess. Your kids start to make a mess and you lose your mind. Or you come home, your house is a mess, but you're going to put your feet up and relax because you've been working all day and you deserve to sit down and put your feet up, right? So in your personal life, kind of, where do you feel like you fall? And then, so let's talk relationships. So any relationships, this could be your parents, this could be your partner, this could be your kids. Are you on the masculine side of we got to do, we got to go, 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 having that control in the relationship? Or are you that person that's overthinking, right? The masculine does tend to be more of your kind of overthinker of where's it, what are we going to do? Maybe you're dating somebody new and you're like, are we going to do this? Or are we going to go and do this? And you always want to kind of have that control and structure around the whole relationship, right? It should look like this. I have the perfect relationship, quote unquote, in a box, and it should look like this, and it should act like this, and et cetera, versus the feminine that's like, I'm just going to go with the flow. Whatever happens, happens. If it doesn't work out, doesn't work out, right? So in your relationships, how do you operate? If you have kids, are you thinking, when your kid is doing something you don't like, are you thinking like, are you acting, let me punish them, let me tell them why it's wrong and force them to correct it? Or are you nurturing them and holding space for them? And you can still be, guiding them and teaching them, right and wrong, et cetera. But are you that nurturer, right? That's your feminine side. Your feminine is your nurturing. It's your, again, in touch with your emotions and your feelings. So your relationships, where do you feel like even your friendships, right? Are you thinking, are you logical about all the things with your friends and, they did this, so they're an asshole? Or are you feminine that's they did the same thing, but maybe they're going through something and give them the benefit of the doubt, that kind of thing. Let's think your spiritual side, right? And so if you're exploring your spirituality, your ability to connect with spirit, your ability to manifest, your, whatever, expanding your awareness and levels of consciousness. If you're on the masculine side of the spectrum, you are doing all of the research. You are getting every book. You're listening to every podcast. You are subscribed to 100 YouTube channels. You are deep diving down rabbit hole after rabbit hole after rabbit hole online. You're following 100 gurus. You're taking 1 million classes, right? And, this is on the far end of the spectrum. So maybe you're not 1 million, but I think you get my point. Are you learning from the data around you and from the people around you? You're in that logical, you're thinking logically. So you're thinking, let me do my research and let me do XYZ. So maybe you learn a method of transmuting energy or reading past lives, entering the Akashic realm. Some people, so let's take Akashic records, for example. Some people learn from a guru that this is the process for accessing the Akashic records. You do this very specific meditation with this specific hum. You visualize this very specific door with this hall, with this library, and it's very, you have to say these certain things to be granted access, et cetera, et cetera. It's this very specific, structured routine of how you do XYZ, in this case, access the Akashic Records. Are you that person? Do you feel drawn to learn the step by step and stick to it to a T? Versus your feminine is, I'm just going to meditate and see what happens. I'm just going to ask for it, right? Not so much learning all the specifics, right? The masculine side in the spiritual way is constantly doing. Okay, well, I was told if I meditate every day for an hour, I am going to be able to channel archangels, whatever, source, who Jesus, whoever, whatever it is. And so you are structured, you are dedicated, you will do the things, you will do the exercises, you will do the visualization, you will, if you're given, take this step, do this visualization every day for a month, and then this will be your result. And you do it. You're committed, you're motivated, you're driven, and you will take action. So you are very in it and you will do all of the things. And then maybe the month happens and then the supposed result does not come to fruition, right? Because as most of us know, and if you don't, not everything is one size fits all. So in the spiritual side, it's constantly doing, constantly meditating, constantly pulling cards, constantly asking and seeking, right? Whereas the feminine side is that flow state, open to receiving, right? It's allowing things to come to you when they're ready, right? The masculine side, maybe you're on your healing journey, is I need to heal everything. And until I've healed every single thing, I can't be a healer, or I can't help people, or I can't be of service, or, it's very black and white. It's either I'm unhealed or I'm healed, right? Whereas the feminine is the in-between, right? It's I'm healing. I'm on the journey. I'm living for the experience. And the masculine is pushing it, right? So if you've been doing your healing work, you know that things present when they're ready to present. You can't necessarily force things. Everything's, the things we're healing are like an onion. And you can't just go right to the center of the onion. You have to go layer after layer. And you can't necessarily just go to the next layer because you feel like it. Sometimes you might have to, grow spiritually or learn certain experiences or go through certain lessons or tests to see if you're ready to heal the next layer. And so the masculine is like, I want to do it. I want to heal layer after layer after layer. And they almost are forcing it. And then they do tend to get frustrated because things are not happening the way they were told or the way that they thought. Whereas the feminine tends to be, let things happen when they're going to happen, right? Be open to what's going to present when it's ready, kind of thing, right? So when it comes to the spiritual side, so I guess the way I've made it sound is it sounds like, oh, well, you want to be feminine in the spiritual community, but that's not the case, because the very feminine individuals, or the individuals who operate from a very feminine space and the spiritual community, are just open to receiving all the time. They want to improve their skills. They want to go to the next level, but they're not putting in the work. They don't have the action steps behind it. So you want to have equal, go with the flow, let things present as they do. How am I feeling? As well as taking action steps, doing the certain exercises. I became a good channeler because I did it over and over and over and over again. I did it for free 4 years. And if I wasn't just doing it, I wouldn't be where I am. So if I was operating solely from a feminine place of just open to receiving, my gifts will turn on when they're ready, right? I wouldn't be a whole lot of anywhere. But if I was only masculine and I was pushing it and pushing it and pushing it and pushing it, what would happen, which has happened before, you almost get kind of cut off, right? If you're go, 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 do, because this is definitely how I was at the beginning. Meditate. I'm going to do all the things and I want to meditate and learn. My way of learning was through meditation. But there comes a point, everything's in these ebbs and flows, right? You do a healing layer, you go through this healing process, or you learn this big spiritual thing, or have this big aha moment, or this download come through, or your certain abilities start to increase, and because you were doing the work, because you were going and you were pushing it and you were doing all the things. But if you keep pushing, the ebbs and flows are forced on you. So you're going to have these things, but then it's going to die down. And it's like just time to relax, time to integrate it all, time to, when you have all these changes happening in your energy field, if you're constantly in a state of change, there's no time for that energy to integrate into you. And you're just going to feel chaotic all the time because nothing ever gets to settle. So there's always the balance between the settling phase, which would be more your feminine, of just relaxing, going the flow, and just being and existing and enjoying the ride, enjoying the experience, versus the masculine, which is, I'm going to do the things. I want to do these things because I want to get to XYZ. But again, the masculine is always focusing on the big picture, the end result, and the feminine is enjoying the ride. Right? So, you really want to have that balance there. Okay, so if you find that you are a very masculine type, some good tips to find that balance. Again, and maybe in this area of maybe in your professional life, you're very masculine, but maybe in your personal life, you're very feminine. So whatever area you're in, if you find any areas you are dominantly masculine, you need to surrender more. You need to surrender to a higher power, to the universe, to the energies, which also means you need to trust. You need to trust that you do not have to have control and that you can relinquish control. You can surrender. You can put it out there and let it happen. And it will happen, and trust that it will happen, right? Find that flow state. You have to let go of that control, that grip, and that constant action, and that thought process of, if I'm not doing, I'm never going to get there, right? Because that's a lot of the times, if we're imbalanced in any way, you can probably find some self-limiting belief or some programming in your mind that is based in some sort of shadow work aspect that you need to deal with. Maybe it comes from childhood, maybe it comes from past life. Maybe your parents were workaholics and so they pushed it on you from an early age. You had chores right away and you always had to work and do and clean and do all these things, and your parents ingrained it into you that you go to work, you go to school to get a good job. They don't tell you to get a job that makes you happy. They tell you to get a job that pays a lot of money. They tell you that the harder you work, the better your life will be, right? If you grew up that way, you're going to probably be a pretty masculine type because it was ingrained into you at an early age. If I am not doing, then I'm a failure, or I'm never going to get what I want, or et cetera, et cetera. So your masculine types really need to find that flow. You need to learn how to trust and relinquish control. And if you have a hard time with that, that's when you really have to do the inner child work, the past life work. You really have to work on that programming. When you feel that urge to control something or to go and do the opposite, right? Do the opposite. Whereas if you're a very feminine type and you find in some areas you're great at relaxing, you're great at giving your body what it needs, your emotions what it needs, you nurture yourself, you're feeling great, but you started this project a year ago and you never finished it, or you've been wanting to start this business and you've gotten nowhere, or you wanted to get your resume together so that you could get a new job that fulfills you, but you just haven't found the time or desire, the motivation to do it, right? If you find you're more on the feminine side, then sometimes you just need to just do it, right? You're probably pretty good at trusting, right? Trusting the universe. So just do it. Just start taking action, because it will create this ripple effect of the action, and it will create the momentum, and if you also add some routine and structure. So again, if you have maybe a hard time motivating yourself, maybe create your own routine, especially if you're self-employed or you work from home and you don't have a boss breathing down your neck. It can be difficult to be a more feminine type and to find yourself being super productive, because you're focusing, how do I feel? I want to relax, all those things. So if you're more feminine, find yourself a good routine and some structure, and incorporate those things into your life in order to kind of get some more action behind your ideas, right? You have all these ideas, but it's time to implement them, right? So, okay. Let's talk about manifestation for a second. So, manifesting from a masculine versus a feminine place. So everyone talks about manifestation, and there's a lot of components to manifestation. There's law of attraction, there's doing your shadow work and your healing, your self-limiting beliefs, all of the things that live in the subconscious and unconscious. But then there's definitely this component of the feminine versus the masculine. And if you try and manifest solely from a masculine place or solely from a feminine place, you're going to have a harder time seeing your manifestations come to fruition. Excuse me. So for example, so manifestation, creation, right? I want to create XYZ. So maybe you are trying to manifest your dream job. Okay. The masculine energy is perfecting their resume, sending their resume out to every company known to man, dropping the resume off, making the phone calls, doing research on all the companies that they are giving their resume out to. They are creating connections and they're networking with other individuals. They're taking action, they're finding all of the information, they're doing their research, they're doing all the things, right? That is what society tells you should do if you want a new job, right? Whereas the feminine side of I want my dream job is visualizing, doing the visualization techniques that people will tell you to do for manifestation, right? Thinking about and visualizing and stepping into the energy of what does it feel like to have your dream job? What emotions are you feeling? How does it feel in your body? All those things. It's the visualization. It's, again, surrender. It's, hey, universe, this is what I want. Make it happen. Putting it out there. If you're only operating from one or the other, so if you're just from the feminine, you're putting the energy out there, but if you're not putting your resume out there anywhere, how are people going to find you? Whereas same with the masculine. So you're doing the research on these companies and you're, sending in all these applications and sending in your resume to all these places, but you're not thinking about how does it feel? What does the perfect job feel like, right? Maybe you've done this 5-10 times before and you get the job that you think is your dream job and you realize real quick that it's not, because you focused on the data, the facts, the research, the analytics, and you didn't think about how is it going to make me feel? Does this company feel good? Does it match my values? Right? Like, how is it going to feel to go to work in this setting? How does it feel to work in an office space without a window, in a windowless cubicle, perhaps? Right? So you really want to marry the two. You want to take action by, having, improving your resume, sending out your resume, making networking connections, making phone calls, doing the research on the companies to see if your values align, while also thinking, what does it feel like to have my dream job? How do I feel? Do I feel stressed? No, I don't feel stressed. Okay, so maybe I shouldn't send my resume out to these jobs that I know for a fact will stress me out. Or, do I, how does it feel to work inside in a cubicle where I'm not moving my body all day? Does that feel good to me? Maybe it does, but maybe it doesn't. And so thinking about things, how do things make you feel? And then incorporating that into your manifestation. So it's putting your resumes out there, but putting the energy out there of this is what I want energetically. And so, universe, this is what I want. I want this resume to find this. Now go. So you have to put action behind the dreams and the visualizations and the hopes and what you're releasing and surrendering to the universe. So if you put action behind it, you're a million times more likely to get what you want. And in addition to that, so when we're manifesting in general, we're starting with a thought initially, right? This is what I want. I want this dream job. These ideas, these thoughts, the energy behind it, the emotions behind it, they are non-physical, non-tangible things. As soon as you have a resume, you have a piece of paper in your hand, right? And so you take your resume and maybe you infuse it with your intentions, right? You throw the energy, all the feminine stuff into that, say, let that find the person. As soon as something, anything, it doesn't have to be a job, you can just write it. So maybe you visualize and you write it down. But as soon as it becomes in the physical reality, you're anchoring it more into the 3D. You can what good is manifesting something in these higher dimensions that we can't even fully access or see in our real life and our third dimensional life, right? We want these higher dimensional things, these higher energies to be anchored into the world we live in. We want to manifest it into this reality, this incarnation, into the 3D, into this planet. So you have to marry the two. Okay. Let me check my... Okay, so let's take a few examples and kind of go over them. Some big things, the things that tend to be biggest questions that I get. Someone will book a channeling session and they have all these questions, and I can't answer those things for you necessarily, but let's talk about some examples and how to approach it, how you approach it from each side, and how to almost marry the two. So again, let's say you're taking a new job. You got a new job offer, right? So you put your resume out there and you got a new job offer. Okay, the masculine side is, it's got a big salary. It's got great benefits. It has potential for growth and moving up in the company. The company is big and well known and well established and not very likely to go out of business. So I have some pretty good security. Things like that, right? That's your masculine, is very analytically thinking about it. The feminine is how does this make me feel, right? So we want to, a lot of the time we're making these decisions based on the masculine. But if we fuse the feminine into it and think, how am I going to feel at this job? How am I going to feel working these hours? Is it flexible? Is it not flexible? Does it require travel? Do I have kids? Am I going to miss my kids if I'm traveling all the time? Am I going to miss out on time with my kids because I'm working 10-hour days? Is it work from home or is it work in the office? And how is that going to look in my life? How am I going to feel on the regular? Some people, do not do well working from home, and some people do. So making the decision of, should I take this job? It's taking the facts, which are relevant, but also taking the feminine. How does it feel? What is my gut telling me? Maybe your gut is like, on paper, this looks perfect, but something in me is screaming no, right? And that screaming no, that could be a shadow aspect, which means you might need to look a little deeper into it, but it could be that it's a very toxic workplace, and you're picking up on the energy of this environment and this company and this boss. So you want to take those things into account, and you want to marry the two when you're making those big life decisions. Okay, so should I break up with my partner? That's another big one that I hear a lot, especially these days. So again, the facts of, they're doing XYZ to me, or maybe they treat you well. Maybe their actions are, they share the household chores, they spend adequate time with you, they buy you gifts, things like that. But on the feminine side, they're not, their energy is low and it's not making me feel good. They're low and they're dragging me down, or, they're maybe kind of narcissistic. And so their actions are doing one thing, but the way that they are making you feel with maybe very subtle things, like very underhanded comments and things like that, are not making you feel good. So, or your gut is saying something's not right here. Maybe on paper, everything feels good. Maybe they do treat you well. Maybe everything looks good. They have a good job. They make good money. They have a beautiful apartment. They come from an amazing family. They're good looking. They have a good sense of humor. They go to the gym. They take care of their body. All these things that might be on your list, right? Check, 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 check. Yet you're not feeling it. There's no spark. You don't feel an intimate or emotional connection. You don't feel comfortable opening up to them. They don't have the emotional awareness, or they don't support you in an emotional way, right? So you really have to focus on both, and you have to marry both. Some people are only making decisions based on the masculine, and then they're not feeling it. Or, they're only going based off of their feelings and all of that, and they're not necessarily seeing, wow, this person does really treat me well. Because there's so many things that could be at play. So that's an example. That's, should I break up with someone? How about, should I purchase this course? Maybe you are thinking about buying some courses out there are very expensive. Whatever line, area it is. Should I buy this course? Masculine is, this is a reputable teacher, instructor. It's a reputable company. The list of everything that is going to be taught feels really good and really aligns with what I'm looking to learn, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas the feminine is, this just doesn't feel right. Or on the alternative, it's maybe it doesn't come from a reputable, maybe it's coming from someone you've never heard of. They're not part of a big company. You have no idea who they are. You have no recommendations, but something in you feels so drawn to them. And you're like, I don't know what it is, but I know I need to learn from this person. I know I need to work with this person, right? That's more so your feminine side. So again, try and marry the two. Let's do one more. Let's see. Should I move across the country? So this is another one that I hear often. Should I move? Should I just pick up and start over? So on paper, it's, well, the climate here sucks. The climate there is better. The job, the ability to find good paying, quality, reliable jobs, not so great here. There's a plethora of jobs, higher paying jobs, better benefits. Families here versus there. It's thinking about, if you were to take a notepad out and start writing down your pros and cons list of facts and those type, that's by the ocean, and, I want to be by the ocean, or, this is, political, politically this aligns with me better. Whereas the feminine side is, am I going to feel good there? Does that feel right? Like maybe you vacationed there and maybe it's the opposite. Maybe on paper, everything is screaming at you that you should stay put. It's secure. Your family's here. You already have a good job. All these things. It's easier to stay, right? You have all these things. You're secure. Blah 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 blah. Whereas you went on vacation somewhere and it felt right. It felt good. You felt like it felt home, even though you've never been there before. Right. And so you're struggling with, on paper, everything, it makes more sense that I should stay here and I should not move. But my gut is saying, like, this feels right. So again, you want to marry the two, because even if your gut is saying this feels right, and then you just on a whim go because it felt right and I'm trusting my gut. Whereas maybe you should have incorporated both. Maybe you should have taken your masculine side and you should have planned it out a little bit better and made sure you had a job lined up before you went, things like that. So it's finding both, right? I'm trusting my gut and I'm moving to this new place, but I'm going to incorporate my masculine energy and, I'm going to make sure I have some, line of work lined up and a place to stay versus just getting in my car and going, So in all areas of our lives, no matter what we are doing, we really want balance in all of the areas. I mean, today we're just talking about the masculine and the feminine energies, but we're going to get into more. We're going to get into light versus dark. We're going to get into earthly versus cosmic. We're going to get into a lot of different things. But take some time and think, use those different areas, those different categories, your professional, your personal, your relationships, your spiritual, the way that you manifest, and think about which side do you feel like you fall under? And then how can you incorporate the other energy in so that you can be fully balanced? The more balanced you are, the more things are going to come to you. You're going to manifest everything so easily. You're going to have the things you want. You're going to feel good, but be moving forward in life instead of feeling stagnant. That's what we want, right? We want to be happy. We want to feel good. We want to feel content, but we don't want to be stagnant. We want to always be moving and growing, right? That's that perfect balanced place. So I hope this helps. And as always, find me on fringespirit.com, shoot me an email, find me on Facebook or Instagram, and shoot me a message if you have any questions, or even leave a comment here. Share, rate, review, like, all the things, and I will see you next time. Thank you. Bye-bye.